All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show, second hour of the program. We're going to keep this thread going just for a little bit longer, talking about the Quebec doctors and their battle with the province and the whole question of whether or not the grass is greener on the other side, whether the grass is greener in New Brunswick or Ontario or other parts of Canada or even the U.S. Now, there has been a spike in the amount of doctors leaving Quebec for New Brunswick. Now, according to New Brunswick's College of Physicians, the number of Quebec doctors seeking to obtain New Brunswick licenses has gone up. It was just 3 in August. This month, 34. The increase, of course, is tied to the ongoing battle between the Quebec government and its doctors. Let's get a closer look at the situation. We head over to Dr. Margot Burnell, president of the Canadian Medical Association and a practicing oncologist in New Brunswick. Dr. Burnell, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
So how do you see it here? I imagine in your role at the Canadian Medical Association, you have a broad view about how it's going across the country. How does Quebec fare? Maybe your take on this latest measure by the Quebec government.
So CMA finds that this latest measure is really disappointing and very dismaying to our profession. It has enacted very strict authoritarian rules, which will cause physicians to become disengaged.
And of course, doctors have lots of options. That is what the stats are telling us about Quebec doctors, at least looking at going to New Brunswick. What would you say to a Quebec doctor right now? What would you tell them if they're like, hey, Dr. Burnell, I'm thinking about moving to New Brunswick? What would you tell them?
So we would welcome them in New Brunswick. I think they would find the practice of medicine very enjoyable. We are a bilingual province, so I think they would enjoy both their professional and personal lives very much.
What do you think is different in the way your province handles doctors versus Quebec? Like, what would change for them? Would they have a better work-life balance? Like, what is the difference between the two provinces?
So the biggest difference centered around this current bill is really the negotiation process of how fees and contracts are signed, which is between medical societies and the provincial departments of health. So in New Brunswick, as in every other province except for Quebec, when a dispute cannot be resolved and a negotiation completed and a contract completed, then it goes to arbitration. So with respect to this particular bill, that process is very different in New Brunswick and the rest of the country. What? I think physicians are beginning to feel very comfortable in New Brunswick. We have a government that's very responsive to our needs.
What are salaries like?
Salaries are very competitive across the Atlantic provinces. The government is just in the process of negotiating a contract with the New Brunswick Medical Society. I'm not privy to those details, so we'll await the outcome.
So what do you foresee happening here? What do you think we're going to see a lot of Quebec doctors head to New Brunswick?
I think you're going to see a lot of Quebec doctors certainly look at the options of leaving Quebec and going to nearby provinces, whether it be New Brunswick, whether it be Ontario. You're going to have students that are going to look to see where do they want to do their medical school, where do they want to do their residency, and even if they're from Quebec, do they want to return there to practice? So I think this will have grave effects.
Does New Brunswick have performance metrics? One of the sticking points in the negotiations here in Quebec is that the Quebec government wants to introduce some performance metrics when it comes to pay. They want to tie 15% of salary to certain performance metrics. They argue, the Quebec government says, well, this happens in other parts of the country. What's the situation in New Brunswick?
So in New Brunswick, under the contract which we have at the present moment, there are no firm metrics with respect to that. Individual departments have general benchmarks of which each individual is expected to perform, but the regulation of that is really through the department head within the hospital authority.
Now, we've seen some health groups in New Brunswick go out, run advertising campaigns, directly target Quebec doctors. Do you think that's okay? Do you think it's okay to target another province's doctors? It certainly seems like every province is struggling with healthcare in various degrees.
I think we would prefer not to, poach from other provinces. Every province has a great need. Every province is under-resourced. But if physicians are looking to move and they reach out or they want to see what their opportunities are, then this causes some publicity for them to consider moving to New Brunswick.
You touched on language before. Of course, New Brunswick is the only officially bilingual province. What kind of a card is that for you to play for Quebec doctors that know French already? And I'm sure you want to get more doctors that know French in New Brunswick. What kind of a card is that for you to play?
I think it's a very strong card. I think it will add to the rich and diverse nature of the province.
And anything we didn't touch on this morning, Dr. Burnell, that you think is important that our listeners should know?
What I think is important is the intent of the bill was to increase access to care for patients. This will not have that benefit. If one increases quantity, one sacrifices quality. So would strongly encourage the government to consider arbitration, which has worked in many other provinces with very similar issues facing the healthcare system and has come to a satisfactory resolution. We need to have dialogue. We need to have collaboration.
Dr. Burnell, I have to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on the show this morning.
A pleasure. Thank you.
That's Dr. Margot Burnell, president of the Canadian Medical Association and a practicing oncologist in New Brunswick.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.